This is Vic Enwere, athlete rep with Transition Sports Entertainment, and this is Bank After Ball.
This is Bank After Ball. This show was created to talk about athletes' journeys on and off the field in the world of business, entrepreneurialism, and finance. Let's see what's going on today. Today's guest is Vic Enwere. Let's jump into it. What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. So tell me about, a little bit about your athletic career. How'd that go? Did you make it in the NFL and those type of things?
Yeah, born and raised in Houston, Texas. Grew up in, the land of football, as everyone knows. Decided to play my college ball in California. Played at UC Berkeley. Had a great career there. Played with the likes of, Jared Goff, some great players, some really great athletes up there. And you know how Pac-12 football is. And so got my opportunity in the NFL with the Jets in Cincinnati for a little bit. Sustained some injuries. But really was able to capitalize on my time, as an athlete and really parlay it into what I'm doing now as an athlete rep. And so being in this space, being able to be so candid in this space, right, going from the position of being the player to now being on the opposite side, the business side, I have this different perspective and different respect for the industry.
So now that you're seeing it from both sides, what are some of the things that you now see that you're trying to change?
A lot, man. I think athletes are really wrung dry, throughout their careers for a huge part of the time. Unless you're one of that top 10% that makes it to the NFL and gets that big payday, for the most of your career, man, you're being taken advantage of in some form or fashion. But we know how it is for a lot of players who, come from impoverished situations or come from different communities, and literally, they put their blood, sweat, and tears on the field, on the mat, on the court, whatever sport it is. And they don't really see a lot for it. And so, being on this side, I've been able to see how it really affects people when they're done playing and, they're used to playing in front of 50,000, 60,000 people. And then a day, all that just stops. That's the perspective I've gotten from it.
So what are your thoughts on now athletes being able to get paid and actually take advantage of their likeness and their image?
Mm-hmm. I think it's important, to be quite honest. I think it's great that the athletes are able to take advantage, of their image and likeness, but at the same time, I still think it's not enough. The biggest issue, as being former college players, is that our thing was our employees not playing us. A lot of people have been wrapped up in the NIL, and it sounds good to be a player that can go out and make some money from yourself, but the reality is, you're still not getting paid what you're worth from the university. You're still not getting a share of ticket sales. You're still not getting a share of jersey sales. And so, yes, NIL, I think it's great, but at the same time, I think it's a too little, too late type of situation.
So you've mentioned a couple things as far as athletes not realizing what's truly their worth and those type of things. But what do you think players in college aren't thinking about right now that they can start getting paid?
I would say that players, I think the mindset that they have and should continue to have is still making it to that next level. Right, maximizing all opportunities that they have at this level, really aligning themselves with the things that they want to do after ball or really during ball, right? Because I don't look at it as a plan A, plan B thing. I think there's two plan A's when you're an athlete. Even if I am playing, I know exactly what space I want to be in, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's real estate, whether it's any different avenue. You should know what you really want to do in that time period. So I look at it as, I think that this is actually going to enable the players to achieve more and to really start understanding professionalism as an athlete earlier.
But let's talk about also, now that this was sprung on us so quickly, now athletes are going to have different problems now. Now you're all of a sudden you're going to have to start paying taxes. You're going to have to start building LLCs and those type of things. And how do we help players do that?
Support, right? I think the universities have to build important teams who are specialized in these areas to literally lend their help to the athlete. Right? It's not the job of the coach. It's not the job of the football ops person. They have to bring in specialists who can really take the time with these individuals to make sure they're not making those mistakes, just like everything else. We have a nutritionist, right? We have a strength coach. Just like that, we should have these entrepreneur coaches. We should have individuals who can help the player develop their mind and their business acumen just as much, right? We talk about mental health, which is really important as well. There should be those resources in place because they're just as important as everything else.
So many players, when they were done, they had those identity issues of once they're done playing. Do you think now that players can now build their brands while they're in college, do you think we'll continue to move away from that trend? Or do you think that that's more so just about the people that are around you and those mentors?
I would say, the hard thing is that I don't ever think that individuals leaving their sport are ever going to have an easier time. And the reason being is that you go from having this almost 6 to 7 day week commitment to what you're doing. And regardless if it's sports, music, whatever it is, when you have a hard transition period where you go from like every day you're waking up at 5:10, you're working out 2 to 3 times a day, you're in class, you're playing games every week, to literally nothing, zero, whether you've made millions, whether you've made $100, whether you made nothing, that transition is never going to get easier.
Yep.
What helps that transition is having an infrastructure around you that helps you bounce back sooner. So I think building an infrastructure of individuals that these young men and women and young athletes can lean on to is going to be the only way that helps them really mitigate, right, some of that struggle that they deal with when they're done playing.
How do you build them as the total package, so they can do branded deals, but also so they have their own LLCs that they can put everything into so that they're not getting taxed? Tell me a little bit more about that.
It's the same way in business as sitting the client down and saying, great, you're passionate about golf, you're passionate about business, you're passionate about real estate. How do we build a long-term strategy that literally goes through step-by-step process, even month-to-month at points, of what it is that they should be doing and how they are aligning themselves, their business, their acumen, everything they're doing to be forward-facing towards these goals that they have, right? They want to be an entrepreneur. What does that mean, right? Like, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to build a business, right? There's a strategy that needs to be built behind that also needs to fit into that individual's life. Everything is personal. You can't build a strategy for someone that doesn't even fit into their life, their schedule, their wants, or their needs, because then they'll never be able to see those things through. And everything else from that is execution. I think the two most important things when we're talking about, developing a brand, partnerships and all of that, are the two most important things is timing and brand alignment. After that, everything is execution.
So did you have any mentors while you were in school?
I had
people that helped you along the way?
plenty of mentors, man. Luckily, at a young age, I was able to be around, the likes of Java Best and Marshawn Lynch. And we know, what Beast Mode has done from the marketing perspective
absolutely.
and the business perspective. So being able to be at Cal and be around him while he took his 2 years off and really just learn from him. Marshawn has built a brand based off of really who he is.
Absolutely.
And I always admired
Very
that
true
because I never wanted to get into a place where it's like my brand was inauthentic to who I am. I easily looked in the mirror and said, you know what? It's not worth doing anything if I can't do it this way.
This mentorship that you've had while playing, I don't think enough athletes have that, first of all.
I don't think they
that's
do
why
either.
A lot of them, end up in some of the situations that they are. But this mentorship, how do we take that and take it to athletes and, one, develop multiple streams of income for these athletes? Because the thing about it is when you're done playing, that's your main source of income, but how do they start that earlier and then, expand that throughout their life?
Yeah, it's very cliche to say, but literally your network is literally your net worth. That's a factual statement. And so what happens with some of these athletes, and what I've seen, is that when you're so used to growing around a particular type of individual and you've only talked to sports people over and over, you only get one perspective. And so I think contrary to that, I think that we need to bring individuals in other industries to athletes and let them see what else is out there. They need to hear, a professor from Haas talk. They need to hear, a board of director from Amazon speak. They need to hear these other individuals and their success stories so they understand that the only way for them to make it is not just sports.
There's guys, obviously, the 10% that are good in college go on to the NFL, but how do we keep kids that are in college, the ones that don't make it to the NFL, how do we build a brand for them so that they're able to protect themselves, take care of their families and those things when they're done playing, or set themselves up for success later on in life?
The reality is every single athlete cannot build a brand and be successful in it because there's not a big enough market for it, right? So individuals have to understand that it's bigger than just building a brand, because that's not for everyone. That's the reality, right? If we work with a particular athlete and they have an acumen in a different space, I'm not gonna force them into a different arena that's really not them. And so it's really about being personal with these athletes and understanding, hey, if you're athlete A and you really wanna become a doctor, right? You don't really have to build your brand to become a doctor. Let's give them the resources that they need to become this, amazing doctor that they want to be. So for me, I don't even want to say it's just brand building. Oftentimes, it's more of just like helping them understand how to get into the industry that they want to be in. Instead of just bringing back, the 5 guys who made it to the NFL or the NBA to talk to us, bring some business people in. Bring an exec from Google. But you have to introduce, right, something that changes up the temperature, right? Like, I think that's the most important thing.
What is the biggest piece of advice that you would give, kids coming out right now?
Fail as much as you can. Try so many different things. Fail as much as you can. Put yourself out there to see what you really want to do, right? Don't go in any direction until you know that you've kind of tried it, kind of dabbled it. College is a great time. It sucks, but you're able to go and internship for all these different people. You're able to have all these different conversations. When you're a college athlete, everyone wants to talk to you because they still think that you're probably going to make it to the league, even if they haven't even watched you play. So use that avenue to keep those doors open for you long term. Have those relationships, take people out to lunch, take people up on their meetings and these conversations that they want to have with you, and then try and fail as much as you can. That's the only way for you to figure out what it is that you want to do. If you never try and you never fail, you're going to end up coming out on the other end and looking at, 100 different things and not really knowing which way to go. Because once you go down that path and all of a sudden you're 26, 27, 28, you can continue to fail your whole life, but now it's different, right? Because there's more financial obligation and different implications the older you get. So that's why people kind of end up in this funnel of like, okay, I can't do what I really want to do because, maybe they have kids and they're 30 and there's different obligations. So when you're young, fail as much as possible. That's the most important thing. Fail as many times as you can.
In this next segment, we have bullish or bearish. Bullish implies it's going up. Bearish implies it's going down. Let's see what they think.
Game time, let's go.
NFL.
Bullish, man. Exponential growth in the next 10 years is going to be insane.
Female sports.
Bullish, right? Pay attention to our female athletes. An important industry. We will not continue to succeed without our women in sports.
Compensation for athletes.
I would say bullish, a little bit of both. I think that we need improvement, sport to sport, but I think it's definitely going to improve in the next 10 years.
Crypto.
Crypto, I'm going to say even kill on this, man. I think there's a lot of risk involved, but there's a lot of potential as well. So I'm not going to, hey, look, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't take my advice on this, but I'm in crypto for sure.
Man, I appreciate you for coming in. This was a great conversation.
Always, man. Always. I appreciate it.
All right, man. And tune in next week.
Peace.